You know, even though that 2011 team, that well, let me just go into that team quickly.
Yeah,
And just
that
show you.
under 17 team went to the World Cup. Talk to us out.
Yeah.
Nice
Jamaica team qualified. Let me tell you the story behind that team. That was a team that I had in my book when I left Medieval. I had all of these players' names that I had seen at competition and so on before, and I had the names down. And I set about getting them to come to Cavalier, right? Let me tell you that story quick. When I came to Cavalier a particular year, I was thinking of doing my own thing at Red Hills, you know. And Mr. Speed said, "So Maxwell, come help me with my thing, and let me see what we can do." And let me tell you something. Mr. Speed he had a team already, you know. But the first thing I did when I came and I said, "Mr. Speed, if you want me to work with your program, if you have to give me total autonomy, I need to look at the youngsters and I will choose who I want to keep." Okay? And I think Mr. Speed had like about 2 teams, the under 13 and under 15 team. And they took up about, well, let me just say the under 13 team, he had at least 20 odd players in it. And that's the one that I basically started from. At the under 15, it's hard to start at under 15 when you have the base. So, it's basically from under 13. And that under 13 team, he had a team, as I said, of about 20 odd youngsters from the year before. And I basically looked at the team and ran. How many of those youngsters you think I kept? Huh? Out of 23.
Probably 11.
2. Maxwell Jones, Rum, and Delanta Pottinger. Nobody else. Only 2. Everybody else went into the book and brought them in. We had these players like the name of Zelana Barnes, Siobhan Marsh, right? Coming into that team. O'Shane Jenkins, right? These are all national players, right? Jason Wright, okay? All of these players were coming in. Patrick Palmer, all of these players I mentioned have played for Jamaica, right? And they came in at that level at under 13. And to be honest, it's one of the best under 13 teams people have said I've ever seen. Because they played such an attractive brand of football. Because we were training for at least 8 months or so before the league started. So what we were doing, they played some of the most beautiful football I've seen. And I can remember watching a particular match. I was against Phoenix too. It was a practice match. And I never forget it, I saw this player by the name of O'Shane Jenkins and Siobhan Marsh. We love when we pile players. I saw this player, and I've never seen it again, He got a double pile. I don't know if you ever see that yet.
I mean double pile, man. Him flick it over and then him bring you back over.
No, look here. Him flick it, Jenkins flick it over. Marsh catch it and flick it back over the man and Jenkins get it back.
Yeah?
Yeah. Flick it over, give it to Marsh. Marsh flick it back over to him. And then they move on. That team, I can tell you, with that team had a lot of ball handling players. Because by this time now, I was coming out of Medieval and I was sharp. I knew exactly what to look for. And all of my players, people knew the type of players that I would bring because they had certain things about them that you would know. I love ball handling players, total football players from the back going forward. All of them. Everybody has to be able to use their feet well, right? So you can know when it's a team that I put together, right? I use many different coaches. I'm going to tell you something. I don't actually coach side, but I know what I want done, and I'll get the coach to coach a team to finish up at that stage, right? So a lot of coaches sometimes, they say, Mr. Maxwell want to put, too much say into the thing. But look here, I know what I want to put out there. I know what I basically assemble. Because there was a particular coach that came once and said, look here, I love when I coach at Cavalier. Because all I have to do is show up with my whistle. Because everything is there, set out for him. Water and this and refreshment. And then the players. If him see the players there and him need a particular, him need a fast left-footed winger. Mr. Maxwell, You get it? We find him, no problem, right? So that's something that we do, right? So that particular team, it took shape then. They didn't win. Same thing, they went up against a Real Mona side and they lost in the semifinals. One of the things happened too, and it was a deliberate thing. When we played them the first time, the Real Mona team was bigger than us. And one of our better players got a broken hand. He fell, and I think the player kicked him when he was down. Well, I know. Because they just came to rough us up. They didn't come to play football. Right? And that particular team, when that happened, that was in the preliminary match, and we were to play them again later on. What they did, they also controlled the administration for CASAFA, and they scheduled the match at night. Our guys never played a night match before, but they normally train at nights. So that gave them a little edge. And to be honest, boy, the match I think we lost by an odd goal, in the latter part of the thing there. But the guys, as what I learned to tell them after that is, look here, guys, these guys are just bigger than you know. By another 2 years, you're going to be just as good and even better than them. And I can tell you something. By the following year at age 14, those guys won under 15. Jason Wright, Romario, Jones, all of them, they were there and they won. They stuck it out and then they won the following year, right? And then the year after they repeated. And that team now at 15 formed the basis going forward. When they reached 16, they didn't lose after this now, They won every single year. They never lost, right? So basically after that, the year when we had we were supposed to go for the under-17 World Cup, I remember they saw some of the players and they only chose, I think, 3 or 4. They didn't choose Jason Wright, they didn't choose Elana Barnes, they didn't choose O'Shane Jenkins,
Yes.
a number of them. And then later on, as the time went on, because there's a thing, people talk about a quota thing. I'm going to talk it now. And I think it needs to be dismantled even locally. Because I've seen Cavalier. One of the reasons why we don't go back to any World Cup, because they also have a quota thing on the local teams. That particular team, after that, I heard that a number of parish presidents were vexed because how can one club team have up to 8 or so players on the team, right? But they were short-sighted because before we got all of those players on the team was fairly ordinary and almost was looking not to qualify. But speaking with Wendell Downsell at the time, and then now, he looked at some more players. One player in particular, I remember I was called by somebody from the JFA when they were going to play a practice match, and they asked me for 2 players, 2 wing backs, just to make up the squad. And I said, okay, this is a chance. So I sent the 2 wing backs. One wing back was coming all the way from Bull Bay, right? The next one was coming from Mountain View. And one of them called me and said, boy, Mr. Maxwell, I missed the bus still, why you pick me up? That's the one from Mountain View, very near. I won't call his name. The next one coming from Bull Bay, I heard he reached up at the team house from like 6 o'clock in the morning. That youngster, O'Shane Jenkins, went on after his performance in that practice match. He sealed his spot, and the coach made it known that he was one of his best defensive players going into the competition, and he was very, very good, O'Shane Jenkins. That just goes to show what professionalism means. It's things like that that make a difference. Anyway, that team, after Jenkins got in, Barnes got in eventually, and then we went up to 8 players. Long story short. So those players that were in that team was, let me see if I get everybody right now. The goalkeeper, Nico Campbell, right? We had O'Shane Jenkins. He was one of the defenders. We had Patrick Palmer.
Zelana Barnes, Jason Wright.
We had the 2 wing backs in that team there, right? Delana Barnes. We had Romario Jones. Romario Jones was so integral to that team. He went into the first set of matches where he couldn't feel anything with his foot.
Yeah, man.
When he was kicking, they had to inject him so he could play
Yeah, man,
the match. That guy was a warrior.
Okay.
But Jamaica, a lot of people don't know what he did to make sure that team do as well as it did. right? How much I got there now? 6. Andre L.A. Lewis is also 1. And then Jason Wright, that's 8. Right, and I can tell you, we played in the last match against a France team that had some very outstanding French internationals later on. And that match was the match, I think, that Barnes scored in and the match was drawn.
No, that's not the game.
I'm
The
not
game
sure.
against Argentina, man. Argentina, Zelana Barnes score.
Yes, right. He scored against Argentina, right. Got that wrong. But we drew the match, though.
Yeah,
We didn't win that. The France match. And that match, to be honest.
Pogba, them and Pogba.
Same team, yeah, man.
Yeah.
Right, so here, at that